Okay.
Okay, anytime.
This is an interview with Jim Lewis about his activities in the West Africa Smallpox Eradication Project. The interview is being conducted at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on July 14th, 2006. This is during the 40th anniversary celebration of the launching of the Smallpox Eradication Project. The interviewer is Victoria Harden. Mr. Lewis, would you briefly describe for me where you were born, how you were grown up, and who influenced your career direction?
I was born in Fayetteville, North Carolina, 1932. Had, let's see, 3 sisters and 3 brothers, or 2 brothers. It was a good childhood, close-knit family. Still are today, the ones that are still living. My parents were very loving. They're both deceased now. I think they probably had more influence to what I did all the time, and that was try to achieve whatever I went after. So as far as my childhood background influenced me to do this and that, and I end up with CDC, and I'm not sure they're connected at all.
What about your education?
Education, I finished high school in Fayetteville, 1951, and went to University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Finished there in 57. I spent 2 years in the Army in between.
What did you major in?
Political science.
Oh, but wait, let me back up. You were in the Army. This was Korea?
No. I was started at Carolina, at University of North Carolina, 1951. I stopped in 1954, my junior year, after my junior year.
I see.
And I went to the service and came back to finish my senior year and finished in 1957.
And you had studied political science. What did you do then? I'm trying to get from political science to smallpox. Tell me about your career.
You really can't do it. My major was one of the reasons I went into the Army. I'd wanted to be a lawyer since I could think. But once I got in there and I saw what it was like in law school and the case reviews and legal reviews and never ending. It was the most boring thing I think I'd ever seen or heard in my life. So I said I need to think about this. So I said, let's go to the Army, volunteer for the draft, think about it and come back. So I did. But I only had a few courses to go to get my degree in that. So to make sure I had a degree, I took it to political science. And after that, I thought I might want to go to dental school. And so I went to summer school, took the Bunsen burner type courses, and too hot. And I just wanted to go out and get a job. So after that I stopped. Decided not to go through with the dental school thing. So went out and got a job with the telephone company at first in North Carolina, and also down to Florida where I worked for Hallmark Cards for 3 years. Wonderful job, great benefits, but still not very fulfilling. It was just cards and shops and cards. And I was single at the time. And I heard about CDC's VD control program. In fact, then I think it was called the Syphilis Eradication Program. And I heard about it. Heard there was an interview in town, so I called to come on over, interviewed, and I was offered a job the same day. And assigned to Charlotte if I wanted to go there, and I accepted. So that's how I got into CDC.
Very interesting.
I just wanted to find something exciting, interesting, something that was challenging every day, and that's why I ended up at CDC. And
apparently, it was challenging and it was fulfilling because you stayed, right?
It was, but what we did in those days, I'm not sure if anyone's explained this, but in the VD control program, it was syphilis eradication, was that you would interview an infected patient for contacts. And those contacts were your responsibility. Get them all examined. Back in, if they were infected, you interview them for contacts. And so it was like a big pyramid.
Right.
Fascinating process. And you'd think that you could never sit down and talk with somebody for an hour. And at the end of that hour, a total stranger walks in the room, end of an hour, maybe 2 hours sometimes all day. You could get a person's sexual history, who they had sex with the last 3 months, 6 months, a year, the dates of sexual activity, who had a sore or lesion on them, all identified in less than an hour, maybe 2 hours, which I think is about the most marvelous thing ever invented, was this interview. I mean, it was foolproof. Anybody could work it. And if you had the right demeanor, you established rapport right away, and it's amazing what you could do. But I enjoyed that very much. So I spent my training year in Charlotte, went to New Orleans at the VD clinic there for 2 years, and transferred to Minneapolis, where I was supervisor for half the state. And when I was there, I was offered a chance to go to West Africa.
So you had come up through the ranks in the VD control program, so you were a prime candidate then to come in. They were looking for people like you.
They were looking at public health advisors
Right.
or former Peace Corps volunteers or people that had experience, but I think they looked at the public health advisors, at this track record at the time, to see if they could, thinking that they could adapt readily to a situation. That it wouldn't be a lot of culture shock, so to speak, but there is always culture shock. But I think they were looking for people that could adapt, communicate with people, were competitive as far as getting things done, had a focus, and I think it worked.
And you were married by this time, right?
I was married.
So you and your wife faced this decision about going to West Africa. Was it a very difficult decision for the
No,
family?
not at all. I was at a interviewing school in Atlanta at the time, VD Control, another interviewing school. And Bill Griggs called me at the hotel that night and said, would you like to go to West Africa? I said, sure. But he said, well, how about Gabon, which is a French-speaking country? And I spoke a little French at the time. I said, when do you need to know? He said, now. I said, well, my wife's in Minneapolis. And he said, well, why don't you go talk to her and give me a call back? I said, well, I'll go up there and talk to her in person, and I'll give you a call back. So I went up and called him in about 4 days and said, no, she doesn't want to go to a French-speaking country. She doesn't speak French. She doesn't adapt to French or foreign languages that quickly. He said, well, okay, how about Nigeria? So that's how I got into Nigeria. And so Betsy and I, my first wife, came down to Atlanta for a wonderful training program. And finally made it to Nigeria, I think, in November '68.
Tell me about what you found in Nigeria and the problems that you faced helping get that program set up. Nigeria is a big place, and the region you were in.
Okay, I was in Nigeria for 4 months. Went to Ghana for 20 months.
Yes.
What happened was there was someone who was supposed to go to Ghana could not go for some reason, he and his family. So George Lithcott, who was head of the regional program in Lagos, Nigeria, asked me if I would like to go and take this man's place alone. I said, absolutely. So I did that, and that's how I got to Ghana. But in Nigeria, it was a interesting experience, very interesting. I look forward to it because we had a training program in Atlanta. What was unofficial is that we had night lessons on the Yoruba language at somebody's apartment. I can't remember whose apartment, but all the people going to Nigeria could go and take advantage of this lesson given by someone from Nigeria. He's a doctor who would teach you how to count 1 through 10, how to say hello, and how to say thank you, and really important stuff. And I adapted languages fairly quickly, so it was right up my alley. So this is wonderful. But that helped me a lot getting to Nigeria. When I got there, we needed housing. That was interesting in itself. They assign you government housing. So we went out to look at this house, and the driver would not go in the yard, Yoruba driver, because there was a voodoo doll in the tree in front of the house. And he was not about to go in that house. And that's why the house was empty. It was absolutely, we were prepared for anything. A tent, we didn't care, because we knew it was not going to be anything like we had in the States. And that was fine. But my medical officer, Margaret Griswold, at the time, went with me. She said, "You are not staying in this house." So I got another house, which is a bit better, and I was fine with that. But that was one of the first adjustments we had to make. It's not a big one, but because we were expecting, as I said, about anything we could get would be fine. The program there, Nigeria is, I think, divided into 4 regions, but Western region is probably the biggest, the Yoruba culture, or tribe. They are very sociable people, hard workers. The person I was working for, my counterpart, was an Englishman, Mr. Robinson. He was English, still I think on the Foreign Service with England, assigned to Ghana, this type. Very proper Englishman.
And this is in Ghana, not in Nigeria.
This is Nigeria.
Oh, this is Nigeria.
And he said, this is my first contact, my counterpart. He's very cool. They're very formal. Hello. I don't know, his little uniform. So it's fine. I said, let's have a cup of tea. He said, oh yeah, let's do. So in that process of having tea, he said, you know, I really don't like the idea of you coming over here, or Americans coming over here, to tell me how to do a project or program. He said, all we need is equipment, vaccine, we can do it ourselves. That was my first introduction to my counterpart.
I see.
That was pretty stiff. I had not expected that.
So your VD training in talking to people must have come in very handy as
Well,
you're having to be a diplomat.
Very much so. So I said, okay, fine, but I'm here to do a job. It's too late to turn back, and I expect to get that done. So what I need now are some team members, 10, 15, 20. But I need to train them how to do this jet gun. Whether you want to do that or not, fine, but I'm hoping for your help. I can't do it without you. So he gave me some folks, medical field unit folks. He didn't attend the first session. I was explaining it to him. This is a gun, this is what you'll be using, etc. He came in the second day, sat in the back, didn't say a word, saw the whole session, came back after lunch, sat through the whole day. The next day he came back, he was there before I was, on the third day. He said, this is absolutely wonderful. So that got him warming up a little bit. And the team and I got along great. I spoke a little Yoruba, which helped a lot. The rapport was instant with them. They knew I was trying to understand their culture, their languages a little bit. So it was a big help. And he saw what I was trying to do. But I was not somebody coming over dictating, here's what you do. I just let it happen. And out of demonstration, I gained his respect. And I thought that was really important. In fact, we became good friends after that, and to the point where we even took trips and cooked our meals at night on sterno heat and stuff. So he was really a very interesting fellow, and he knew his way around the bush. So that was my experience there. The teams I trained were excellent. Left them after 4 months because I went to Ghana, and still have very fond memories of Nigeria. I still know some of the languages. I mean, even 40 years, know how to say, how are you, and thank you, and so forth.
Will you demonstrate?
Yeah, Shelafiani, which means, how are you? Alafiani Adupe means, fine, thank you. And Odabo means goodbye. A few words like that. Also, my favorite was Mo Fante Khan. Mofe Fante Khan. Mofe is I want. Mofe. Fanta is a soft drink. And Khan is one. I want one Fanta. So on these little side kiosks along the road, if you're thirsty, tell them what you want. But I enjoyed that very much.
That's wonderful.
And then from there I went to Ghana after that. And great surprise there. Bernie Chalano, who's a doc who was relating to me in Ghana, but also had Togo and Dahomey, had set up a little duplex for us.
Okay, we're rolling back.
So when you finished your work in Nigeria, they asked you to transfer to Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on one second. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Tell me what you found when you got to Ghana and how that played out.
Very interesting experience all the way through. But the first day, we got there in the morning. We spent the night in Dahomey with Gene Roy. Got there and very eager to get to work. So right away, I went to the office as soon as I could to find out where my office was, who I was going to work with, that type of thing. So I did that right away. And I reported to what turned out to be my counterpart, even though I was not a physician. He was a doctor, but I was the only one in the country. So I was the one that, at that time, Dave Melchinger joined me later. But I went in and introduced myself and sat down, and he looked at me and said, we really don't want your smallpox program here, but we like the measles program. So he was almost telling me, we really don't need you, just give us a vaccine, almost like my counterpart in Nigeria. So it's not a good opening, although he's a wonderful man. He became one of my best friends ever after this. So I said, fine, but I'm here. Where's the office? He said, well, your office is down there. You'll find some boxes in there, crates that had not been opened yet. No desks, nothing. He said, we'll try to get you a desk, we'll try to do that and everything. Anyway, it's not a very warm welcome. I don't know if it was the fact that I was not a physician or what, but I never even thought about that too much. Anyway, we got through that day and I said, well, that's not a very good start here, but we're going to improve it. We're going to do better. But I asked him to get some teams, to give me some teams. So that was coming up. So we went home pretty tired, been traveling all day. Bernie Talanoa was spending the night with us. We had a Doberman Pinscher that we picked up in Ghana, a police dog. Picked up in Nigeria and brought him. And he was with us. I had a night watch at the door. So we went to bed and about 3 o'clock in the morning, I heard this pop, 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 machine gun fire. Not in the distance, but in my backyard, behind this fence. So I said, I'm just dreaming or something. This is not happening. Again, pop, 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 getting louder all the time. So I go downstairs, I open this, it's the night watch. I said, what is happening here? He said, it's Army against Army. I said, great news. So we got back in. Of course, we're all up walking around just wondering what was happening, because there's still people running behind our fence shooting at each other. And then pretty soon, I can't remember the time, but right out in front of our house, in our driveway, I heard two, like machine gun, two bursts. Pow, 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 pow. Had no idea what that was, but the next day I found out the head of the country, General Kodaka, and his bodyguard, Friday, were killed in my driveway, right outside the driveway. They took the bodies, put them in the truck, and dumped them out in some ditch near the airport, where they found them the next day. And I found out about this the next day or the day after, that it was Kodaka killed right there. So that was just all in the same day, meeting my counterpart, not a very warm welcome, and having a coup happen the first night I was in the house, at the house. And night watch, I thought he was going to run and go crazy. I couldn't believe it. But anyway, we survived the night. Next day everything cooled down, and Ghanaians seemed to adjust very quickly to get back on schedule. Wow. But that was a pretty rude awakening there. Got work very quickly, got the teams organized. Again, the atmosphere was, there's no smallpox here, so we don't really need you. That's why I'm training the teams anyway. So we started. And about the second week we were going through it, and they were really so well prepared for these guns and the vaccine loading and the water flushing and all this stuff. Somebody walks in the door and said, can we see you right away? There was a smallpox outbreak in town, in one of these, it's like a big travel center. A lot of people, a lot of transits, buses going. He said, what do you suggest? I said, well, I think we ought to block off all the exits and we'll vaccinate. Willy-nilly, but we'll try to do something right now. because you couldn't take names, you couldn't record. So we did that. Unfortunately, it stopped. Smallpox epidemic stopped. Whether it was due to our efforts at that time or if it was just over, but everybody looked at it like we were responsible for getting rid of that outbreak, which is great news for us and great news for the program. Since that day, Dr. Grant was totally on our side. He wanted everything possible for us. Got involved in the program, and everything just seemed to turn around. The planning of the program in Ghana was not perfect, but the best it could be. We had trucks going night and day, teams going. It was quite a wonderful experience. But anyway, we became very good friends, and had a very good relationship.
You mentioned that you thought perhaps there might have been, looking back, a problem because you were not a physician. Will you talk about the interaction between just your epidemiologist and the operations officers and how you all worked together?
In Nigeria, it was Margaret Grigsby, well-educated, brilliant woman. She was the team leader. I was an operations officer. I was going to do training. I was going to take care of the trucks, make sure they went all right. Anyway, I was an operations person, so I do that. So that was, I think, how it was meant to be originally. When I went to Ghana, there was nobody else except me. So I was the epidemiologist, I was a trainer, I was a planner. Anything that had to be done, it was me. And I had to go through, with Dr. Grant, we'd plan things, get the medical peer units involved in all the regions. Worked up a health education notification campaign where we'd go to our villages 2 days before and get everybody ready so when we got there we wouldn't have to round people up. People working would please stay there, we'd get there early. That type thing. It went really quite well.
Many people have said that medical knowledge per se was not the most important thing in smallpox, that it really was the logistics and making sure that everything, the trucks worked and you could get the people and get the people there, and so it was this kind of a project, much more in terms of the success of the program than just knowing that you had to have a vaccine and how to stop it.
Yeah. Well, there's also what we call the cold chain. We had to have refrigerators set up in advance in all these regions because the measles vaccine had to be refrigerated.
Right.
And especially the measles vaccine, as I remember. So there was a whole line of logistics in that regard. If there was no refrigeration, it was hard to do your program there. So we either had to buy one somewhere, the ministry would, and put one there while the campaign was going on. The measles program, as I mentioned, they wanted 3 bullets about what you remember.
Right.
And three of the things that, and I didn't want to repeat other offerings that I saw coming up on the web, but I was really concerned, and have been, that the measles control program never got the full credit it deserved for saving thousands and thousands of children's lives in these villages. I think the death rate was like 50% of people under 4, children under 4 in a village. And I think in the time that I was there, in the 2 years, it was 20 months, we had feedback from villages that they didn't have the deaths that they normally have every year. And this also was a point of discussion with Dr. Grant. He said it's a good program, measles control, smallpox certainly. Now he's convinced that we need to be there. But that we could be creating something that we really don't need, and that is more people. Because what happens is people have lots of children, because that is their social security system. Because they know half of them will probably die, or not last, but maybe 3 or 4 will last to support them in their older years. He said, so what we're doing, we're saving lives, but creating a population problem here. The people that normally wouldn't live, now they're living, which is going to impact on the Social Security system in these villages. So it's good and bad,
Right.
which I thought was a very good conversation. We had that many times while we were there. Just trying to think about. I just want to mention one thing I think is kind of interesting, and it's humorous in a way. We were all given little Polaroid cameras to take pictures of smallpox or document this, document that. And we did. It's an outbreak in Baku, Ghana, which is up north. Very good documentation. But I walked, and sometimes you go in a village, you had this camera and lots of film, and I took pictures of chiefs that come out. It's a gift. I said, here's a gift. Thank you for getting everybody together. Wonderful. So this one chief, we rode in one day, and he had everybody gathered there, and he came up and greeted, and I thanked him. I said, I'd like to take your picture. He said, oh, okay. He said, well, wait a minute. So we went back into his home, came out in this beautiful robe. He had it be just right for this picture. Took the picture and the old cameras, pull it out, and let it dry, and walk around about a minute or so, and everybody's staring at you. About 200, 300 people there just watching you, didn't know what you were doing. So I pulled it open. He came over to see it, and it was totally blank. I said, oh my Lord, how fast can I get out of here? This is bad news. First time it ever happened. We'd been on a rough road. I'm sure the camera had a few jolts. They've got marked away. I said, oh, he said, I said, I'm really sorry. He said, no, it's not your fault. He said, I'm not worthy to put an image on your film. It's my fault, not yours. Not yours at all. I said, no, wait a minute. We're going to take another picture. Oh boy, this had to be right. So what you do when something's broken, you kick it or jerk it around. So jerked it a little bit. Took the picture, and everybody was just dead silence everywhere. Stares. Pulled it open, pulled it back, and it's the most beautiful picture of this chief you've ever seen. He was so thankful. Came up, shook my hand, and would not stop. He said, oh, I am worthy. I said, absolutely, you're worthy. And everybody started dancing and, running around and dancing. It was like a little celebration of this little picture. I thought that was, but anyway, I was very careful not to take any more pictures because I never knew what was going to happen. Except, but I did take some when I thought the camera was working all right. But I thought that was a pretty tense moment, but it turned out to be a good moment for everybody.
A learning experience on both sides.
Yes.
Would you comment on any other special occurrences that have stayed with you? And then I want you to talk about the 25th millionth, organizing that event.
There's so many experiences. I don't know. I think it'd probably take more time than we have here. The trucks, the Dodge trucks we had, Slant 6 crew cab trucks, were excellent. And we had to buy American for obvious reasons. It was an American program, USA program. But they were built to do just about anything. But we were going through this early in the morning. It was 6 o'clock, leaving from one town to another. We came upon, it had been raining for 2 or 3 days straight. We came upon this little muddy area with water standing. I said, whoa. I said, that looks pretty tricky to me. I said, when we go back to the village, just take another way around. The driver says, oh, no, this is no problem. No problem. I can do this. I've done it many times. I said, are you sure? These people are waiting there. We've got to... No. It's no problem. I'll just go right through it. So we started up, and about 10 seconds later, we were up to mud, up to our fenders. Wheels were not spinning. I mean, it was just spinning. Nothing was happening. Nowhere to get it out. So I only had on one set of clothes, so I took my clothes off, down to my underwear. And the other team did. We had 2 other team members. They did the same. So we started digging out these mud with our hands. Somebody had taken a shovel a week back. I don't know where that went to. So I said, we're going to be here all day, maybe all night. And all of a sudden, here comes this fellow, dressed in nice pants and a white shirt and a little tie, on a bicycle. He rides up, didn't say a word, didn't ask what was happening. He knew what was happening. He put his bicycle aside, took off his clothes, folded up very nicely, and started digging with us. Without saying a word, just wanted help. Didn't pass us by. So I said, wonderful. Maybe it won't take as much time now. And all of a sudden, in about the next 30 minutes, there must have been 10 other people just coming in from nowhere. We were out in the middle of nowhere. And the next village was like probably 10, 20 miles. And all of a sudden, these other people came and saw what was happening. And they got involved and started shoveling and pushing and pulling. We finally got out of there. Everybody looked like mud men and mud cake men, hardly see their eyes. And I was so grateful to these people. I said, wait a minute, I've got to give you something. So I had some CDs, that's the local currency there. And I said, here, no matter what I did, so I want to divide it up. Not one who took a dime or a CD. And it's almost like an insult to offer them money for what they thought they should do anyway. I never forgot that. And I just, boy, wouldn't it be great if people in this country would take that same attitude? It's doing things that needed without trying to be paid for it.
The other thing, as several people have said, is that how surprised they were when they were out in the middle of nowhere, and then suddenly people appeared.
Yeah.
And
that's certainly a good example.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the 25th millionth vaccination.
Okay.
What was the purpose of doing this, and how did you set it up, and how did it come off?
Okay, George Lithgott called and came over. He was head of the program. Fabulous person. And said, we'd like to have a 25th million vaccination ceremony, and I'd like for it to be in Ghana. He said, you're here. Said, one of his best friends, Ambassador Franklin Williams, was there. And I said, sure, glad to. He said, can you set it up? I said, I'll set it up. We'll do it. So it's going to happen in several weeks, so I had plenty of time to start organizing. Well, it turned out we were not going to have it in a crowd. We're going to have it about 30, 40 miles up country. So I had to meet with a doctor who was very prominent up there in that area, Ghanaian, ask his opinion on what to get done. I said I wanted really a great ceremony and something that would be just a tremendous occasion for everybody. So he named all the paramount chiefs around him and everywhere. He said, I'll contact these folks and I'll give you an answer. So in about a week he called, he said, I got him. I'd be happy to do it, just let them know when and where. I didn't know exactly what to expect. And I said, I think they'll have some type of shade buildings on one side. It was going to be on a soccer field. We picked out a soccer field. Little huts, open air huts with little, I guess, palm leaves on them on the side. So the chiefs could sit on one side and the dignitaries on the other. That was custom. So, and then I had to arrange my teams to be there. I had to pick out the vaccinee. I had to figure out the protocol. There were 18, I think, ministers of health coming from all over Ghana, because it's a West African program. So all the ministers of health coming there. I had to figure out the protocol. Who's going to ride in the first car, second car, third car. Surgeon General was there, Dr. William Stewart. Dave Sencer was there, Don Millar. Chris DeManda came over as a Francophone interpreter. So after that was lined up, and I got help from the embassy with the cars and USA, because we needed lots of cars to go up there. I lined that up. Figured out the ceremony, got the stage set, all that. And I won't go into a lot more detail than that, but that's what I had set up. So I got there on the morning of the program, and I was the only person on the field. I'm always early for something. I just want to make sure everything's working right. So I got there, I was the only person on that field. No other people even walking around. I said, I'm sure it's the right day. So nothing. So this one woman, I think she's a nurse, comes across. It's great. So I said, Ma Ching, if it's in Ghanaian, means good morning. Ma Ching. She answered back. I said, what's happening? Where are these people? She said, they're coming. They're coming. I said, where are they? I mean, I don't see a sign of them. Not on the road. But anyway, people started coming in. The dignitaries, Dr. Sencer, and the 18 ministers in their group, all under this palm tree, these huts. And in the distance, I heard these drums. Boom, 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 boom. I said, boy, that sounds great. I don't know what it is, but it's got to be good. So they came in, and they carried the paramount chief on a pallet. Beautiful robes. I gave Dave Sencer a set of slides yesterday, and they're in the CDC archives, but if you haven't seen them, I think you should take a look at those. They're just great. But they came in, and the drums were beating, and all the chiefs around him came into this and sat on that side of the field. Fill up every little booth there. And what happened, when everybody got seated, I think it was the chiefs come over and to this side and shake everybody's hand, and they go back and sit down. Then the dignitaries, the visitors, they have to do the same. Then they get up and go around and do the same, and then back and sit down. Then after that followed a speech. I think Dr. Stewart said something, and I think the Minister of Health, Ghana, the normal type of presentation you would have like this. And the girl came up to be the vaccinated, little baby, and she was a granddaughter of the doctor I'd been working with on this thing. He said, let my granddaughter be the person. I said, fine. So got her up there. And
how old was she?
She must have been about 4, maybe 4 or 5. And so it started to put the gun, and she just started screaming like mad. Would not sit still. She went hysterical. And so this is lovely. I said, okay, let's do that. So I started walking down the crowd there, and I saw this lady, and I said, bring over a jet injector. I said, put it on her arm. And she just smiled. I said, this is one. So we got her in the picture, and that's why she's there. But it was a great ceremony, and it was finished. They started playing drums and everything. Everybody started dancing. And Dr. Stewart was standing with the paramount chief. George Lithcott was in the background. I got a picture of this. And they were dancing, and I told Dr. Stewart, do a little dance with the chief there. So he did. They started dancing around, and so it's a great picture.
Oh.
I had it developed later and blown up and gave it to Dr. Stewart and Tulane University later on. But after that, we went back to Ghana, and George said, earlier that day, he said, I think the day before, he said, what I'd like to do, if it's possible, to have a dinner social for all these ministers of health at your place. It's a small duplex. Very small, but a nice backyard. So I told Betsy, my wife, I said, she said, oh, yes, we can do it. Well, she had to get more help. They had to wear their white jackets, of course, serving drinks and food. I had some Ghanaian cooks come in. They were loaned to me from the embassy. Ambassadors cook, USAID's directors cook. Wonderful meal. It was a buffet type. And, of course, lots of beverages of all types to have. And so everybody was showing up, and George said, there's one person that didn't want to come. And so why not? He said, you don't have the title that would be worthy of his visit or something like this. You just don't have the title. You're not. And I said, well, where is he? He said, well, he's here. He's coming now. He said, but if he acts a little strange or whatever, and he looks like he's perturbed, it's because of that. But I said, well, we'll warm him up, George. Not to worry about it. He'll be fine. So he came in, and everybody had a wonderful time. very relaxed. People socialized, and Dr. Sencer was there, Dr. Millar. And the last person to leave that, I think, was that minister that didn't want to come. He had the best time, and he couldn't thank me enough for it. So that was a great ending to a great day. But got through, and everybody's relaxing. Well, this is wonderful. You know, the tension's off. And got a lot done today, and sitting down relaxing. And our houseboy comes in. He said, I have some bad news for you. I said, what could possibly be bad about this day? I said, it's been wonderful. He said, some of the silverware is missing. And then we borrowed silverware from the USA director's wife. This is really top-of-the-line silverware, you know. I said, how many pieces? Well, I think it's about 10. I said, oh. So I had to call USA director's wife, and I said, this is what happened. I said, I'll be glad to pay for it. Just let me know how much it is, and be glad to pay it. She said, no. I said, we'll take care of it, which was a blessing. But it's a little negative part to the end of the day, but looking back on it, it's kind of funny because who would ever expect, you know, silverware to be missing after a really fine little trailer. It was a very small apartment, I mean duplex, but just the same, it was accommodating to everybody. Everybody had a great time, I think.
And people will be people, for good and for bad.
Yes.
Indeed.
There's one thing I wanted to show you, the paper upstairs. I should have brought it down here. It'd be great to show here. I was trying to get our vaccination site notices in the newspaper, and I had a health educator, Ghanaian. I said, Abakwe, would you take this little list down and tell them to put this in the paper for next week's vaccination sites around the city? Fine, simple job. Well, he comes back with a reporter and a cameraman. And Bernie Challoner was there, from Dr. Challoner was there on a visit in my office when they walked in. And they started asking me questions about this and that, about the program. And I was saying, wait, folks, this is not a press conference, because, I'll back up a minute. When I first got there, George Lithgow was a very close friend of Ambassador Williams. Said Ambassador Williams didn't want a lot of American publicity because he gets it all the time. Every day he's in the paper, it's American this, American that. So I said, don't worry, everything's low key. Not to worry. So he did this interview. I said, please, this is not a press conference. And then in the morning, here comes a paper beside me at breakfast. You've got to see this paper upstairs. Headlines: smallpox to be eradicated from Ghana by 1970, official. And right in the middle of it is a picture of three of us, myself in the middle, Dr. Challoner on the one side, and Abakwe on the other, the health educator. And what I'm gesturing is that this is really not a press conference, and they took the picture. So it came out in the paper the next day, and I looked at it and I said, how much time are they going to give me to pack up and get out of here? Or will they give me any time at all? Can I pack? So I was really kind of concerned. The Minister of Health called, wondered why they weren't informed of this press conference. U.S. Information Office called. Jim, you've had a press conference. We're supposed to know about that. I said, it was not a press conference. Said, well, have you seen the paper? It is a press conference. And I went to the Minister of Health later on that day for another audience. And he said, Minister of Health said, Mr. Lewis, he said, you had a press conference, did you? I said, no, sir, it was not a press conference. And he grabs the paper and says, hello? He said, you had a press conference. I said, well, I'm sorry, it was not meant to be. So Abakwe, my health educator, was there to explain what happened. But anyway, I was worried about the ambassador and the effect that had, because I didn't want anything negative about the program. And he called later on in the day and said, tremendous article. Congratulations. Which I was so relieved. So I unpacked my bags again. I was going to stay. And the USA office, U.S. Information Office called, and very happy about that. But it was great publicity for the program, but not intentional. But I thought that was interesting part of the program.
If you were going to do the program over today, what would you change?
I think, I don't know how other people, I think all the operations people and probably epidemiologists got into the culture business, not full time, but pick it up gradually and see what they wanted, where you could best communicate, get their rapport, establish rapport, get their cooperation in a nice, natural way. And I think if it had more training, like we had in Yoruba, before I went to Nigeria, which is extremely helpful to me, and learning from that experience about how it helped me in training and establishing rapport with the team. I'd kind of like to see that happen in the other countries. We could do it over again, find out what the major thing is, and offer a couple days for someone teaching them phrases, how are you? Eventually they got that along, but I think in the beginning, I think it would be a big help to do that. Some parts of the culture, we went through all kind of culture shock stuff in training, but nothing to really prepare you for the real world out there. But it's fun. You'd run into things every day that was unplanned for, but it was exciting. And at the end of the day, you feel like you'd really done something, and it's fulfilling. The team was safe. They all had food that day. They had a place to sleep. The word about their families, they could only assume maybe on the weekend, or maybe once or twice a month, if that much, and that was like payday to take a very meager pay. But they were such wonderful people to work with. And I think that's really what I enjoyed most, but I'd like to see some ways. I'm not sure how it would do, but I think anybody going overseas to any country, you study that country and the culture, don't go in as a big expert. This happened to one of our medical officers. He came in full of knowledge, epidemiology, Yale or whatever, CDC. And he had his counterpart, I won't say nationality, but his counterpart was just irritated with this man from the first moment he laid eyes on him. They're used to having juniors to sit in the background. If they needed information, they will be asked for, not to come up front and say, here's what we need to do, and you do this and do that. That was his counterpart. And I think that, I probably shouldn't be saying that, because I don't want it ever to get back to this doctor. He was a tremendous fellow, full of knowledge, but I'm just saying that first encounter, I think he adjusted very quickly after that. But I'm not sure the expatriate doctor who was on contract with Ghana ever really got over that. He dealt with me fine. Then we became good friends. But for some reason, he just seemed, any other doctor I did, I'm not sure, it didn't have to be this one. It could have been anybody coming in. I think he would resent. So that was a little difficult. I think people say go in there and bam, 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 get the job done no matter what it takes. I think that's the wrong approach. I think first you got to spend a few days finding out what's going to work with these folks, what they think should work, and then go to it. But just don't go in thinking you're the boss and everything else they're doing is wrong. Everything they're doing is right. We're going to adapt to that. I don't know if there's enough attention paid to that before we got over there. And you learn as you go.
Very good. How did the smallpox program change your life and your career?
It changed it a lot. I came back after 2 years. I think, looking back on it, I should have stayed more. And right now I would have stayed. Came back to an executive training program in personnel here at CDC, a 1-year training program in all phases of personnel. It's fun, but it's the most boring thing, especially just coming out of Ghana, where you were making decisions every day, countrywide decisions, planning, programming, and come back to books and reading papers and personnel regulations. Oh boy. Well, anyway, I toughed it out for a year somehow. But then I went into CDC training program, had a seminar symposium branch or unit that I eventually became chief of. And that was fun. But still, what I was doing was planning seminars for physicians around the country on infectious disease. If there was a call for some physician group, state group would say, we need a seminar on this, can you help us? And that was what we were there for, would help with bringing these great speakers. They would do the funding for it. We would pay the speakers an honorarium and the travel. But I did that, and that was fun. I did that about 3 years. Went back into CDC. They had a phase-out and training program, reduction. And they consolidated that to something else. But then I was offered a chance to go back with the old BD control program. Did that for several years. And during that time, I went back to, right away, went to Bangladesh for 3 months after that, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I was back in my element again, I think. And later on, I went to Somalia, 3 months, where we found the last case. I didn't find it, but shortly after I left, I think they did. But the reason that I had changed my life, nothing ever compared, excitement-wise, fulfilling, of that experience in Ghana and Nigeria. I mean, that, and I've always felt that was my niche. I really, looking back, that's what I should have stuck with. I should have gone to international health, either with WHO. I was offered a position with USAID while I was in Ghana. If I wanted to stay there as an operations person. Looking back, I should have probably taken another path. But I liked what I did at sea, most of it, not all of it. A lot of it was boring, and I think I would change that a lot. I would not do that, some of the things, because it was just meeting, and paper shuffling, and reviewing grant applications, which is fun, and I did a pretty good job at that, real good. But to me, it was just never like going out in a Land Rover and working with these great nationals, medical field unit people. Look forward to it every day. With great camaraderie. They were just super people. And just excitement of doing something different every day. Instead of knowing you're going to look at the grant application, you got to review and get it back. No comparison. So I always miss that. Even think about it today. I still have friends in Ghana that when I'm in New York City now, I went to see him last year. He was one of my right-hand men there. So I still have a lot of affection for West Africa and the people there.
Before we stop, is there anything else that you would like to get on the record here?
All kind of stories in between, but I really can't think of anything else. It was just a great program. I think Bill Griggs and Don Millar and Dave Sencer did a fabulous job. And George Lithcott, who was regional director. I don't know who picked him, but he deserves 5 stars. He was absolutely perfect for that job. And his wife, Jeannie, what a wonderful couple.
I think you all were a very special group, and you know it, and that's
kind
of important.
Yeah.
So good. Thank you so much for talking with me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.